When I was a little kid, two of my absolute favourite things to do were play with Legos and read storybooks. Didn't have a single care in the world. I don't quite remember having many hobbies, but I was a very quiet kid who used to sit in the corner, and I just wanted to be left alone, really. I didn't care about playing with other children. I didn't care about anything, really. Fast forward 20 odd years, I am now a research scientist and I model some fascinating structures on a computer. But sometimes it feels like I've just moved on from my Legos to my models and from my storybooks to my academic papers. But at the core of it all, I still get to build and I get to create. But do I still have not a care in the world? Maybe one. Whilst I love what I do, something I ask myself often is, am I good enough at it? Did I just get lucky throughout my whole life? And if so, when am I going to be found out? Turns out I have imposter syndrome. And apparently it's a lot more common than I thought it was. So that got me thinking, what about my role models? There are some amazing women in academia who are world-renowned professors, they are scientists, some of them have OBEs, and in my mind they are pristine and perfect, which just means how is someone like me ever going to be in their position? But what if I'm wrong? What if they have their own struggles, whether imposter syndrome or not? And the best way, I thought, was to just ask them myself. And so that's what I did. I spoke to 3 women in academia, and as terrifying and as nerve-wracking as that was, I just tried to remind myself, what have I got to lose?
I was the first female lecturer in physics at Manchester, first one they appointed. And actually, you know, that was a double-edged sword. So some people were very, very negative and horrible. And some people were very positive and were of the view of, you know, we'd love to have your viewpoint. We'd love, you know, we want more diversity. We want to understand how you think we could do this better and that better. And that gave me lots of opportunities that actually my male colleagues didn't have. They didn't have the rubbish going on as well, but you know, you've got to look for the positives.
My dad worked in textiles all his life. My mum was a traditional mum of the 60s and gave up work when she had her children. She was very amateur dramatics and she danced and things, so that's probably where that comes from for me, really. But yeah, there's no history of university in my family. And not much history of science either, I have to say. I think things probably changed now, I hope so anyway. Yeah, I tell this story that people don't believe, that the first time I went to a conference as an academic to present, I was the only woman presenting over the 4 days of the conference. And there were some girls there, but they were scientists, but they were accompanying, they weren't actually there to present or as delegates, which yeah, I'm really glad to say that's not the case now, at all.
There's nothing wrong with being frightened. There's nothing wrong with finding things daunting. I mean, the first talk I ever gave, I remember giving it, but I've no idea at all what I said at any point. And it just passed in a haze, and I was just glad to get to the other side of it. You know, it was just, I was unbelievably nervous about it. But, you know, I did it, and the next time it got easier. I think it's exacerbated, isn't it, this imposter syndrome, by that there are always a good number of people around who are prepared to tell you that you got it because of somebody else, or because of your gender, or because of you satisfy some other box that they feel that needs to be ticked, and I think that's very damaging. You know, I've just to tell you, I've never had a job, won a job where at least one person, and it's usually many more than that, haven't told me that I got it because I was a woman. you know, it's simply never happened that somebody hasn't shared that little bit of pleasure with me. And if I really believed that, then, you know, I think it's so damaging. And I think the thing you've got to keep telling yourself as well is that those negatives take up so much more of your energy and time than the positives do.
There are no standards written down. There's no sense of what does good enough mean. And we're all obviously high achieving type A personalities. So when good enough isn't a thing that we know what reaching a goal means, then everything we're doing is not enough.
Have you ever struggled with imposter syndrome before?
I think I definitely feel imposter syndrome in different areas of life. Like, I think teaching is a big one, because teaching, we don't get evaluated on, are you a good teacher? We get evaluated on, do the students think they learned from you? And not, do you respect students? Do you care about students? And what their impression of you is what does professional mean? You know, see, you know, a white man in a tie is usually what they think of as professional, which means, oh, this must be quality education. And I couldn't look further from a stereotype mathematician. But I mean, I love makeup. Obviously, that's, you know, jewelry, things like I'm a very girly girl. I have my nails done. I have makeup. Like, those things make me happy. And in there, there's always a lot of math and science behind the curtain.
I think you just have to do it.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
You go for it. I want to speak to you and I want to speak to other people, and I just go for it and I speak to them, because what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to say no.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that we've tried. I tried to build in when I was supervising PhD students, and it's something that as a mum I try to do, to say to my children as well, is do it, go for it. You know, you don't be held back by feeling that you can't do it, by thinking that your university wasn't high rated enough so no one will listen to you, by thinking that girls don't do that, northern men don't do that, whatever. Just do it, and it'll come to you if you do.
I do recognise that my doubts are not magically going to go away, and I might even potentially carry an element of imposter syndrome with me for the rest of my life. But I also recognise that that's okay, and that's what normal is. Because perfection is just an illusion we've created for ourselves, and we've put that on our role models. Our role models have their own struggles, and if they can achieve what they have despite that, then I can as well, and so can you.